This is going to be a somewhat odd talk. I want to make clear from the title, it's not just for those who use the gents. It's also for those who have ever shaken hands with anyone who's used the gents. Now, design in the gents is failing, and that's going to be a big issue, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. And you know design of the gents is failing because, in fact, you know design of anything is failing when people have to start putting notices up. There's basic ones. Yeah. What happened there? There's a story behind that, I'm sure. And this was one I actually saw. I think it's in an airport in Riga in Latvia as you come out the door. So the design is failing, and there's also a number of rules that have built up. I mean, gents, guys, you know this one. You've got these four. Okay, guy goes to this one. Can everybody point to the, if you're in next, which one? Yeah, you've got to go the furthest away. Okay, so there's some clear rules of use that are building up here. But why is it an issue? And this is why it's an issue. This is the H5N1 virus. Years ago, I was part of a government-wide project to try and manage the response to avian influenza and what would happen. And this is serious stuff. If you've ever seen this film, it's incredibly realistic for what the government's predictions for what are going to happen is. This is the result, because if you think back to the influenza after the First World War, that killed hundreds of thousands of people. It was kind of mixed in with the war dead, but it killed hundreds of thousands of people. And the fear that spreads, that stops people going to work, stops people living their lives, it will result in absolute chaos in the UK, and they're trying to plan for that. And why did that make me think of the gents? Well, because of this. There is a real problem. One of the main problems why influenza spreads and why all these diseases, pandemics can arise, is people just don't wash their hands enough. And this is particularly true of you blokes. The research shows it's roughly about half that wash their hands. Do you know that? Yeah. I'm pleased to report, everybody, that having taken an informal survey as I was washing my hands earlier, it's pretty good at this conference, okay? But I've been at techie conferences where it's just don't go there. You don't want to know. Now, these are the user needs that we've got to design for. Guys want to go in, they need to point Percy at the porcelain, or whatever other English euphemism we're going to use to get around this. They want minimal proximity or interaction with others, preferably none whatsoever. Okay, don't be that guy that comes in starting a conversation. Then we just want to get back to the rest of your life. Now, there are then two others that people just don't think about, but they are there as user needs. They don't want to catch diseases from other people, and they want other people to stay healthy as well. So we need to think about how we're going to design the gents so that there is going to be better hand washing just for our own survival as a nation. So we need people to be doing this. What gets in the way? Well, first, you've just got to wash your hands with water. You get to the sink, you see a sign like that. So many places you see this sign saying, danger, very hot water. Well, that puts you off for a start. Scald risk. And then you're washing your hands, and you've got a tap like this, you turn it on, then you've got to turn it off by touching the very same surface you just touched a moment before. And viruses can last a couple of minutes on a metallic surface like that, let alone the fact that the previous guy touched it as well. Then the design of taps. I spent a while with this one. I was hitting the top, I was turning it, I was trying to push it back, all sorts of things. Turns out underneath there's a little sensor and you just wave your hands under. And so it's just, a lot of faffing around and fiddle. Then you come to drying them. Okay? You remember the rule of proximity to other guys, right? Okay? So there's a guy with his todger out at this one, and you're expected to come and dry your hands at this thing. Now, the problem there is wet hands transfer viruses much more easily than dry hands do. And in fact, much more easily than if you don't wash your hands at all. So if you just quickly run your hand under the tap, which most guys do, and you don't dry them, then you end up with a problem because you're transferring those bacteria and viruses around. Because this is the next problem. You leave the gents, you've got to touch the same handle that the guys who haven't washed their hands have to touch. And you've defeated the whole object of this, because all the handles to get out of gents are pull handles. So there are the design problems that we need to address if we're going to solve this problem if we're going to design gents well, because designing minor things well saves lives. Thank you very much.